Today we're back on the Trans Am project, and after we've got it sandblasted, before we put our epoxy primer on there, I want to go back in and I want to get all the E-coat off of the quarter panel here on both sides that we put on, get everything stripped down. We're going to do that, and we're going to sand it with first an 80 grit sandpaper on a DA, and then I'll go back over it with a 180 just to kind of, smooth some of those sand scratches out. I'll also go back in over the rocker panels and may kind of go back over the roof where we come back in and fixed our rust and stuff up here and tied that in. We're going to get everything that way when we prime it. Once it's on the rotisserie, we can rotate it and get everything, or as much as possible, with one round of primer. We've also come in and we've finished up some of our little small welding. We still got some stuff to do here. I'm just kind of cleaning up some of the welds that we kind of missed before. Now that it's on a rotisserie, some of those are a lot easier to get to. So let's go ahead and get this thing sanded down and see if we can get this thing prepped and ready for epoxy. So now we've got both quarter panels sanded down. We went over them with a DA sander with 80 grit paper first, just to kind of knock all the bigger stuff off, and then went back with a 180 just to kind of knock that scratch down and just kind of get the rest of all of the E-coat off. And the reason we take the E-coat off of any of our new parts, you can see there that I've already kind of started working on the upper dash piece as well. But we take that off. I really don't trust the E-coat. I've had bad experiences with it in the past. I found rust and stuff underneath there, and I look at it as almost just a coating to get it from where it's made to here. I'd like to know exactly what I've got on a car before I paint it. So we just decided to take it all off, and I do that mechanically because I don't want to warp the metal with a sandblaster on our exterior sheet metal. So now that we've got all of that done on both sides, I've kind of went over the door jambs a little bit as well. And we've discovered a few things here. The little clips here that hold the wiring in on the driver's side, these are pretty rusted out. You can see there, that one is probably the best that we have. That one's completely gone. And then the one here on the back is pretty well rusted out as well. So I'm going to end up making some new little clips for there here in just a moment. But first, I wanted to go ahead and get our two brackets welded onto the floor pan here for our center console mount. Now I marked these before I took them out. The measurements of what they were. We measured from this rear seam right here to this edge. This one was 40 1/4, and we've got that marked and measured as where it needs to be. I'm going to go ahead and get it tacked into place, and then I'm going to come back in and measure this one. This one measured out at 32 inches to this edge here. So we'll get you set up here. We'll get those, we'll weld them in, make sure that they're where they need to be, get them welded in, and then we'll come back and see about making some clips here. All right, we want to double check our measurements, and we measured from this seam here to this front edge at 40 1/4. We already have a little mark there on the floor where that's at. I wanted to double check it. So let's go ahead and get this one welded into place, and then we will adjust this one where it needs to be. Next one was 32 inches, measuring from the same spot. And looks like that's it right there. Kind of hold that just a minute. Let's put a mark so if it moves, we'll know where it's supposed to be. Okay. Weld that one there. Double check this other side here. Make sure nothing's moved. 32 and 40 1/4, so everything's good to go. We'll weld those up. Got that. I don't really, there was a third bracket that come in back here. I don't really think we're going to need that, so I'm not going to put it in right now. Most of the 77, 78 cars that I've worked on, I've not ever seen this little bracket that was back here. This one being originally a 76 car. I don't know if that was something there. Maybe they had a rear console back here at one time, but I'm not going to put it back in. I've still got it, and it's still got the measurements on it, so if we need that later, we'll do that. But right now, I'm pretty happy with just putting these two here. So what I'm going to do here is, it looks like these brackets were made and then just set down into this blob of seam sealer. So what I'm going to do is take an old screwdriver and kind of get in here and kind of break this apart and see if I'm correct on that. I don't think that they're welded, and they're not. This one's pretty well toast, as you can see. Try to get all this old seam sealer out of here, and I think what I'm going to do when I make the new ones, I'm actually going to weld those back on instead of this seam sealer business here. Take a wire brush and get in there and get the rest of that out. Work on here and get these other ones. Actually, it looks like the last one there may be good enough there to where I can make a template off of this, and we'll just make some new ones up here. It's pretty simple little tab out of some 18 gauge sheet metal. So let me get the rest of this cleaned up. We'll wire brush it down, and we'll cut us out some new brackets. So what I've got just a little scrap piece of poster board. This happened to be a template that we made something else out of. We no longer need that. So again, it's just poster board you can get at your local dollar store, Walmart, whatever, your local arts and craft place. I'm just going to lay this down here. Again, this is a really, really simple piece to make. Shouldn't be too complicated. It's basically just a small T sheet metal. And I'm just going to mark this out. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just all this does is holds some wiring in place here. I'm going to make this a little bit longer here because this end was rusted out. So something of that nature there. We need a hole here and here for some plug welds. We'll go ahead and mark those where they need to be. Cut that out with a pair of scissors. And then transfer this down to a piece of 18 gauge sheet metal. Again, pretty simple. There we go there. Now we've got our template. You kind of see it laid there next to the original piece. And then we're going to transfer this over to our sheet metal. I'll tell you what, let's slide back here and use this area here to cut these out. We've already kind of had a cut there, so we'll line that up with the bottom. We'll mark out 3 of these. Okay, so after we got all of our holes drilled and our old brackets cut out, I took a pair of vice grips and clamped them to here and just bent that around to kind of replicate what our factory bracket was. So now I'm going to take and put those back in here, and then we'll plug weld those into place. I've got all 3 of those done and ready to be welded in. And again, it's just holding our bundle of wires that go through from the main wiring harness back to the back of the car. So let's go ahead and get those welded up. So now that we've got our new tabs welded in, our factory, or our new wiring harness rather, will run through the original places here. This little tab here that folds over and holds, it'll come down through the rocker panel, back around here, and then back up this quarter, and then into the back of the car there, right above the wheel well. So the whole point of this phase of the build is getting everything prepped for epoxy primer and making sure we have all of our rust and stuff fixed that the sandblaster has exposed. And sometimes to go forward, you have to go backwards. So after the sandblaster come in, this in here had a lot of body filler in it. So you can see there's rust through here, all behind where the hinge goes. It's kind of gotten really thin right here and even up top here. All of this, and then even a little small pinhole right up here at the very top. We do, I know we've already kind of fixed some of this back here, but we got lucky, I guess. We have this piece here, which I've already removed. This actually came when we bought this rocker panel here, if you remember from the earlier video. So I think I'm going to go in and remove all of this and just replace this whole panel here. This gives me all new mounting locations here for the hinges. I think it'll be a better option than just trying to go in and patch each individual spot there, the way this metal has already gotten so thin. Let's get set up here, and we'll start drilling out all of our spot welds around here. Down here at the bottom, we'll actually have to cut here because we welded this up here. We've actually replaced this little spot back here. We'll cut everything loose. Then we have a couple of spot welds to drill out on the inside here because the brackets for the door hinge bolts are actually, they spot weld from the inside. So, unfortunately, just another piece to day here back on the Trans Am. It's rainy out today, so it's a little bit loud in the background, and I apologize for that. Let me show you what we've got here. So we've got all of that panel cut out. We've got everything cleaned up, all the old spot welds and that ground down. I've got the new piece. It had a little surface rust on the back side of that, so we've got that cleaned up. I'm going to mix up a little bit of primer and go ahead and spray inside here on everything before we weld it all up. And then we'll let that dry, and then we'll weld everything back into place. So I went ahead and sprayed some epoxy primer here on all of our inside structure there, and then on the back side of this panel here where it was bare metal and had a little surface rust and whatnot. As the primer was drying, you seen me there, I went ahead and stripped down one of our new doors. So now let's get this thing, see if we can fit this new panel back up here, get everything clamped into place, line it up, and start welding it in. So we've got everything fit in place. We added a couple extra clamps. Everything seems to line up very well with where the old panel was. So I'm pretty pleased with that. We'll go ahead and start welding this into place now. Everything on the inside there lines up pretty good there. So let's get this thing welded up, and then we'll come back in, and we still have to drill out our hole here for our power window and power door lock wires to come through. So now that we've got the outside panel completely welded in, we've ground all of our welds down and cleaned the E-coat off of it, we've got to come in here on the inside, and we've got to weld our brackets for our door hinge bolts. We're going to weld those in. We also had to remove this bracket here for the dash mount. So once we get this welding here done, we'll come back in and then weld this bracket here back into place, and that'll have this swap here completely finished up. So we got our dash bracket welded back on. We just simply lined that right back up with where the factory spot welds were and re-welded that. Also welded our spot welds in for the dash or the hinge brackets there on that other panel that we put in. So now that we've got all that done, we're pretty much going to wrap this video up here. We've got a lot done. We've got the quarters sanded down. We've got one door sanded. We've got to do one more door. We've got a new hood that we also got to strip down. We'll finish up a few little things here and jump back in, take care of the little bit of rust back here on the trunk, and we'll have this thing ready to put some epoxy on for the next video. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. Appreciate all the new subscribers. Continue to like, share videos if you like it, and we'll see you the next time.